Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore, and I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, Maria Casillas. And we have a kind of a cool little experience that I had in my personal life over this last week. And as I was driving home from when this happened, I had this kind of like a aha moment, and I started thinking more and more about it. And I was like, this is something that we could definitely talk about on the podcast, because it definitely pertains to us as coaches and also how we can, help our clients as well. So I'm excited to get into that with you guys. But before we get into any of that, I want to just do a little bit of housekeeping real quickly. Number one, thank you for listening today. If this is your first time, hopefully you guys, enjoy the show today. You get some value from it, and you continue to check us out every other week as well. And maybe you even go back and you're like, oh, this one was such a cool show. I want to keep going and listen to all the other episodes that were there, which we would really appreciate. But we're just grateful that you're here today. And then, if you guys have been listening to this show for a long time, maybe you listen to it every week. You are what we call our every weekers, and we really do appreciate you guys as well. Your undying support for this show is what keeps it going. So we really do appreciate that. And if you haven't yet, leave a review, share the show, rate the show, whatever it might be. That stuff really does help us to get out to more and new people as well, so we can keep this show growing. And also, if you're looking for some people to connect with, or maybe even connect with us, a really good way to do that is through our Facebook group. So it's free to join. If you haven't joined it yet, you're welcome to. We'd love to see you there. But it's called the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits on Facebook. So just pop in there, answer a few questions just to kind of get access to it. It's really simple. And then, you can jump in there. You can ask questions. You can, connect with us. You can be a part of our monthly meetup. We have a book club and all the different types of things that you can do, so have some fun with it, because we like having fun and we want to have fun with you too. So with all that being said, Maria, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Cody. Thank you. A little under the weather, actually, if I'm going to be totally honest. So you're going to hear my raspy voice, and woke up this morning looking like Walking Dead. but sometimes life just hands us that stuff, and we just have to kind of keep going. So between that and the planes that are outside, you may hear me cut out a couple times, but I'm here for the conversation and looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, we hope that you feel better soon. Hopefully by next week, you're 100%. So
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. Alrighty, sister. Well, I will just kind of preface this and just let you know that this takeaway that I had, this aha moment, had absolutely nothing to do with financial coaching on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like I said, as I was driving home, I had that aha moment. I was like, this is actually something that could apply to financial coaching and how we kind of serve our clients and all that good stuff. So I'll kind of lead in and just kind of tell you the story of this thing that happened to me and what my big takeaway was. And then we'll just open up a conversation around it. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I do some volunteering in many ways for my church. And one of them is I play in the worship band. So I play guitar, sometimes I sing, stuff like that. And the way that our setup is that we have the stage, which is where we perform, and then we have like a little curtain. And behind the curtain is where like all of our guitar amps are at, and they have like microphones on them and stuff like that, just so they're out of the way and, we have more room to kind of do our thing and whatnot. And for those of you who don't know about music production or anything like that, when you're playing a live show, you have your guitar amp, and usually the guitar amp is at like a lower volume. And then there's a microphone that's placed in front of the amp so that it can then be fed through the big speakers out front. And that way, the sound guy can basically control like how loud or how quiet he wants you to be in the mix of everything. So with my guitar amp being backstage, I was using a mic, and this mic stand in particular, it was, a ground level kind of mic stand, and it kind of had like this arm that kind of went out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had set the mic stand up, and not thinking about it, I placed the arm so that it was kind of going into the walkway of where people would like walk behind stage and whatnot. And obviously when we're performing, all the lights are off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing led to another, and someone walked back there, and they came out onto the stage, and they said, "Hey, Cody, I'm sorry, but I was walking backstage, and I'm pretty sure I knocked over your mic stand for your guitar amp, and I didn't want to mess anything up, so I just want to let you know so you could fix that." And I was like, "Okay, no problem." So I put my guitar down, went back there really quickly, saw that it was indeed knocked over, so I picked it up and I put it right back to where it was before.
No
And I was
lesson
like,
learned
"Okay, yeah."
yet.
I was like, "Cool. I fixed that problem. I'm gonna go back out and start playing again." And then like 20 minutes later, someone else came back out, and they said, "Hey," it was someone different. They said,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm pretty sure I knocked over your mic stand." And I
Hey, at
was
least they're
like,
coming to you.
"Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "Okay." So I went back over there, went backstage, saw that it was indeed once again knocked over. And I looked at that and I was like, "This is the second time that this has happened." And I was like, "Oh, well, this little like arm that's sticking out into the aisleway, I'm just gonna flip it around," which did which did entail me to take the mic off the mic stand and flip it around and put it back on and reposition it, all this kinds of stuff. Took me maybe like 10 seconds to do, right?
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
was like, okay, now that arm is facing the curtain and it's not in the aisleway, and that should solve the problem. And in fact, it actually did solve the problem,
Mhm.
and everything was smooth for the rest of the night. And, after we had our practice, I kind of packed everything up and I was driving home, and I was just thinking about that experience. And I had this moment to myself where I was like, there is a big distinction between fixing a problem and solving a problem. And I don't know why that hit me so heavily, but I was like, I should just have that kind of mindset with any sort of problem that I have in any area of my life moving forward. Like, I'm no longer going to fix problems. I'm going to solve problems moving
Mhm.
forward,
Yeah.
So that's the kind of story that kind of, you know, sets the stage, pun intended,
Uh-huh.
for this whole conversation. Um, but I'm curious about what your takes are, and, even how we could potentially kind of work this into the financial coaching world as well.
Yeah, well, I definitely think I could throw some takes in there, but before I do that, I'm curious to know, as you were telling the story, you even used the words fix and solve. Like you said,
Mhm.
oh, that'll fix it. And then you said that should solve it. So I'm a little bit curious. And maybe it's unfair that I'm asking you this because now that's already been done, you may not remember, but I'm wondering, did you use that language in the actual moment? Or is that language that you have now started to put into place that you've thought through it?
That's a really good question. In my head, I literally thought the first time that I did it, when I went back the first time, I
Mhm.
literally in my head said, "All right, I fixed that."
Mhm.
And then the
Okay.
second time when I went back there, in my head, I literally thought, "Problem solved."
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So that's really neat because, sometimes we can tell stories and input our insights as if they were there before. And that's why I wanted to kind of check in on that because obviously your mind knew that that insight was there,
Mhm.
or that was that distinction was there is what I should probably say. And you had that insight driving home, but you at a level, what maybe a subconscious level, already kind of saw that distinction even just in doing things. And so that's just kind of neat. So that means that there's hope for all of us because we intuitively know that we're either fixing or we're solving. And so thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is super relevant in so many areas of our lives. I mean, you could look at you could look at any area really. Marriage, for example, how many people have trouble in their marriage and they decide, well, I'm just going to leave, oh, that'll fix the problem. Well, it might fix something, but it's certainly not going to solve the underlying issue. And so when we're looking at the coaching realm, I think it would be a good idea first to talk about where some of our clients might see this in their lives when or before they come to us. And then we can talk a little bit about how we might actually see this in our own practice. So I think one of the things that clients tend to do is like Band-Aid
Mhm.
fixes. And that's
Okay.
really what this is, right?
Yep.
So for example, they have disorganization, they have a lot of it could be debt, it could just be a lot of bills. I mean, it could just, but there's complete disorganization. They don't know. They've got so many things going out. They don't know what time of month it's all supposed to go out and all of that. And so some people will go to like a debt consolidation so that it can just get into one bill. Some people will declare bankruptcy so that they don't have to pay that anymore. Some people will go and do like a 0% balance transfer.
Mhm.
And to say that any one or all of those things are not useful tools would be probably a little bit short-sighted for us to say.
Mhm.
But the truth is, chances are it's just a fix. It's not going to solve the underlying problem. So, what are your thoughts on that first? I'll ask you that. And then I'm kind of curious to know what is the underlying problem when our clients have that.
Yeah. Uh, all of those are really good examples, and I think that we see that a lot. I mean, I don't know what you see with the people that you talk to or the listeners see with people they talk to, but I talk to a lot of people, and all of the things that you just mentioned, it's like so common. So
Mhm.
common. And a lot of times people will be like, hey, they'll hit me up on Facebook through Messenger and they'll say, hey, like, what would you suggest here? I'm thinking about doing this. And I'm like, well, that might help a little bit, but that's not the deeper issue. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I tell them that, and that's usually what gets them on the phone with me, kind of thing. Um, but even like I was talking to someone recently, and this was a past business partner that I had that I kind of helped him a little bit with like his finances and got him on a really good path. And this was probably like 2 years ago. And then he hit me up recently and he's like, hey, dude, I had this happen. I had that happen. I've fallen off the deep end and now I'm in some trouble and I need some help again. So I, set up a call with him. And basically he was like, I have these 5 people that I owe money to, and it's in the terms of like, some of them were like $1,500 and others were like 12,000 kind of thing. And he's like, and as far as my credit cards go, all of them are pretty much maxed out except for a couple of them, and I have like $3,000 available that with my credit cards. And I basically have 2 options. I could, take this cash that I have and get these people taken care of, but that would put me in kind of a little bit of a tighter spot. Not terrible, but just not what I want kind of thing. Or I could utilize what I have available for my credit card and take care of some of those people that are more pressing right now, and then just try and make more money and get through other people as soon as I can, kind of thing. And he's like, I really don't want to use my cash. Like I really want to have that there. So I'm thinking about putting the rest of my credit cards and just maxing them all out, kind of thing. And I was like, well, what happens if you do that and then next month you find yourself in a similar situation, but now you don't have anything available on your credit card? Are you going to have to use your cash? Are you going to have to open up a new credit card? Are you going to have to do this, do that? And I basically told him, I was like, by doing that, you're going to be putting like a band-aid on a bullet hole kind of thing, like it's just kicking the can down the road. So his idea like is let me fix this. Whereas I told him, I was like, dude, not only do we need to potentially do something that's a little bit more uncomfortable right now, but we also have to figure out what caused you to feel like you could leverage yourself so much to get yourself into this position, and what were you actually going after? And for him, he's going after this whole dream of, you know, having a 7-figure business. And I was like, well, what do you want? Do you want a 7-figure business that you only bring home $100,000? Or do you want a $500,000 business where you bring home 300,000? Like, what do you actually want? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the real thing that needs to be solved versus
Mm-hmm.
just how do I keep paying these people so I can keep chasing this number that's going to make my ego feel good kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I might have also asked, did you want a positive or negative in front of that 7 figures? Because
Right?
at this point, that's where he's headed, is in that negative 7-figure business. Um, I feel like we might have, well, is this the same friend who had like the music dream that we talked about
No, it's a
several?
different one.
No, different person. Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, I know you're in that field, so you have a lot of people who are in the industry.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of curious, where did he get the cash? So if he had it, because he must have had a pretty good pile of cash in order to almost take care of all of those other people.
Mhm. He has a business where he did like some sort of event
Hmm.
like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and because of that he
Hmm.
had an influx of cash. But with that event, there was also a lot of expenses as well.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
some of this stuff that he owed were part of those expenses. And he
Hmm.
wasn't able to bring in enough to cover all of it, kind of
So it
thing.
was a
And
net
that's what got him
negative
into this
event.
situation. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, very good. I mean, that's definitely an example of what you actually want. I love the analogy of putting a band-aid over a bullet hole.
Mhm.
Like you can't unsee that once that is
Yep.
said. So thank you for that. But yeah, that's a very common example. And now that's kind of an extreme example. And I think that if our listeners are thinking, oh, well, my clients, they don't have those extreme examples. Okay, that doesn't mean that you can't help them solve whatever underlying problem there is. I'm working with a client right now who we're actually tag teaming. So Nino, who's part of our New Money Habits team,
Mhm.
he's working with her on the budget side of things, and I'm working with her on the more psychological side, the emotional side. And one of the things that she wrote to me, which is very interesting because she actually also has a therapist. And so when you were saying that, oh, if I just get my therapist, I can figure all this out. But she has that. And I remember talking to her like, look, I don't want to take your money if you're getting what you would get from me, if you're going to get that from your therapist. And she's like, no, I want to do this. And so, okay. So the last time I met with her, she said, could you do like a quick thing of bullet points for me of things that we kind of had this discovery on? And so she's like, I'd like to share it with my therapist. Okay, so I did that for her, and she's like, yeah, she's seeing a lot of the same things. And she then later responded to me and said, I never realized how intertwined all of the other things in my life are with what I'm doing with money. She said, I honestly just thought I was going to hire you guys to tell me what to do so that I could just take care of it because I was going to get in my own head and I needed to get out. She said, but now I'm realizing it's like all of these other things, all of these irrational thoughts that I have, all of the, she has some addictive tendencies. And so she's like, all of that just plays right into the hand. I'm hoarding money. I'm hiding things from Nino. Like, it's just all of these things that are coming up. And she's like, I can't even believe it. And we were able to kind of get down to the root of some of that, where she's hiding things, like she's squirreling away money, and she always calls it fun money. And we realized that she believes that income can't be had fun with. So she's been telling herself this over and over and over. So any money that she gets on the side is not considered income to her. She refuses to share that with Nino because she's like, but then he's going to make me do something with it, and I want to be able to have fun with it. And so we're just kind of able to dispute some of that underlying thought and go, is that true? And the funny thing is she's actually a hairdresser. And so her income is inconsistent. It is, what was the other? There were three things that she said, I don't want to call this unexpected, inconsistent, and something else. And so we realized that her regular income is also unexpected, inconsistent, and the third thing. And so she was like, oh, okay. And she realized she was just using that as an excuse to squirrel away the money and go down that negative path of hiding things, right? Which is dishonest. So there was all of this stuff underneath just bubbling up. And had we just said, you know what, we're going to take this plan. Oh, this is a perfect example. She then had an insight because I didn't have this with her. She had an insight. She goes, I realized that I also use that tool in the bank where you just round up. So all of your purchases, like if it's 1957, you just round up the change, right? She said, I've been using that for years. And she goes, and I realized I use it for the same reason, to squirrel that money away. And I told her that was a really great insight that she had. I said, other clients in my history have used that as a tool for math, like for rounding, right? Like it just makes it easier for them. So I wouldn't have even questioned her had she said she did that. But then when she was able to have that insight and realize that there was a pattern there, she's like, I don't know that that's the healthiest thing for me to do either. Like, yeah, you're probably right. So I think having the ability to help our clients solve, at least identify, and then help them solve that underlying issue allows them to utilize that for the other areas in their life. It could still be financial areas, but other things that we as coaches might not even recognize as being a destructive path for them, because it's something that for other clients, it's actually pretty standard, right?
Yeah. And, that right there is a really good example of not just kind of like fixing it by just saying like, hey, like you need to be honest with us so that we can put this money back to work. But
Mm-hmm.
you guys saying, hey, we noticed this and you noticed this too. So let's do some digging and let's see what's actually going on there. And obviously there's a bonus of that she has her own therapist and stuff like that. And she saw similar things, which just reinforced the whole thing. But
Mm-hmm.
that is the difference between fixing and solving.
Mm-hmm.
Because even for her, like if you guys would have just taken the route of like, hey, this is just what needs to happen, and you didn't help her understand why it needs to happen and the benefits of it, then she probably wouldn't be super into it. And she'd probably
Mm-hmm.
continue to hide these things and not make the most of it. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a really good example of fixing versus solving.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for letting me share. I usually don't share that much detail about certain clients, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you letting me do that.
Yeah.
It's
No.
kind of funny. I asked for her permission to let me sit in on one of her sessions with Nino, not to say anything and not to watch Nino, but to watch her and just see, does she share more, knowing that I'm present and that I know more, because she has not yet shared it with him. So it'll almost be like a little intervention. And so, yeah, it wasn't something that Nino and I discovered. It was something that she and I discovered, and she's allowing me to hold her accountable just by being present, not even to call her out on anything.
Have you so did you sit in, or is that happening?
Actually,
Coming up?
that's happening today.
That's
So
happening today.
yeah, it's happening today. And I told her, I said, actually, it's a really good thing I don't have to talk today because I sound like this. So it turned out okay. But yeah, it's happening today. And I'll let you know if it changes anything. It was funny to hear Nino, because I, of course, got his permission first, but I was very, not cryptic, but I didn't share all the information because I don't want to skew his, what I'm going to ask him later after the thing is, did she appear differently? Did she present herself in a way different than what you're used to? And I don't want to tell him why I'm sitting in, because I do think that will skew his response afterwards. So he's all like, are you watching me? And like, no, this has nothing to do with you. I have utmost confidence in what you're doing with her. I just want your permission first. And so anyway, I will keep you posted.
Yeah, definitely do. I have one more example
Okay.
of
Is this from the
fixing
coach's
versus
side
solving.
or the client side? Just out of curiosity.
I think it's a mix of both.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let you decide on what direction you want to take with this.
Okay.
Because I'm going to, spill the situation, and then I'm just going to turn it over to you. I'm not going to give any sort of insight on it.
Okay.
Okay. But essentially, I'll set the stage. Working with a new client, and they've had 2 meetings with me, and the meetings that we have had has been relationship with money, which we found out that she avoids money, and she also puts a lot of pressure on herself.
Okay.
Those are the 2 things. Okay. So, and we had a lot of detail on that. And the second one is where we kind of did like an audit on her to see what had been happening, and we refined things in the best place possible moving forward. And we were about to go into the third session, which would be what I call our money map session, or in other words, a budget session where we, give that to her kind of thing. And before that third session, the morning of, I received a text. And the text says this: "Hi, Cody. I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate everything that we've worked on and everything that you've done for me so far. I unfortunately need to step out of the coaching for now. I want to tackle some of the mental side with my therapist, and I haven't been as disciplined as I should be. You've been amazing, and I want to utilize your services again if you'd have me, but right now I'm mentally not at the point as much as I would like to be. You've given me great tools and advice. I appreciate you, and I'm sorry." And then I had said, "Can you please call me?" And then she called me, and we talked through things. And I'll save the rest for a little bit, but just so far, what are your thoughts on that?
My hunch would be that something came up in the first two sessions that she struggled with on her, like just from what she's finding out about herself. But I think ultimately she doesn't want to disappoint you. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. And she feels like if she continues on with coaching and fails, that will be more of a disappointment than just cutting it off altogether.
Yep. So when I hopped on the phone with her, that was it.
Oh.
Yep.
Am I in the right field? Should I be doing something different with my life?
Yeah.
I'm just
She
kidding.
basically said two things. She's like, "I don't want to disappoint you because I feel like I'm disappointing a lot of people in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't want to disappoint myself as
Mm-hmm.
well." And I kind of called her out on that. And I was like, "Well, do you remember the first meeting we had where we really dug into, we found out that you struggle with two things. One would be avoiding your money, and two would be that you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are. You're doing those exact two things with this quote unquote decision that you're making. You're avoiding working on your money, and you're saying that you're disappointed in yourself in the fact that you feel like you're not as disciplined as you should be, but you're so early in this whole process. Like you're putting so much pressure on yourself that might be, quite frankly, unrealistic at this point, you know? Like we haven't even gotten you your budget yet, and you're talking about how you're not perfect with your money habits. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're absolutely correct. So, I'll kind of take it from here, and I'll finish out this whole thing, and then I'll let you kind of decide where you want to go with the whole fixing and solving versus client or coach.
Okay.
But essentially, I had a phone call with her. We kind of talked through things. I told her that what she's experiencing as far as like not being super disciplined and not feeling like she has that clear plan, um, and things aren't falling into place perfectly quite yet, that's to be expected with where she's at in her journey. It's also extremely normal. Like, it's very rare that someone just comes out right out of the gate and they have everything perfect kind of thing. And I also told her, I'm like, if I allow you to walk away from this, which I very well could, I'm not going to force you to do anything. But if I allow you to do that, it's going to set a precedent and a standard for yourself moving forward, that when anything in life gets hard or challenging, that you run away from it. And is that actually going to serve you or not? And she's like, "No, it's not going to serve me." So one thing led to another. She decided to keep going. We had our session where I gave her budget. We talked through some things as well. And then the next morning, she sends me a text, and it says this: "Good morning. I just wanted to say again, thank you for talking me off the ledge yesterday. I'm feeling much more confident, and 1,000 times better. Thank you for being an amazing coach and not letting me throw in the towel.
Well done, coach.
So I'm curious about your thoughts about how this can tie into the idea of fixing a problem versus solving the problem, whether it be for the client's end or the coach's end.
hmm Well, I definitely see how it could be from both ends. So we'll
I
start
agree.
with the client and just say that she tried to fix a problem. And that problem was overwhelm. It was the idea of not meeting her own expectations of herself and fear. I think that was probably one of the underlying ones as well. And so it would have been easy to fix it. And in her mind, she was fixing it because she wasn't, at least according to her initial text, she wasn't giving up on all things that were supposed to be helpful. I mean, she said, I want to focus on the mental side of this, and I'm going to do that with my therapist. But oftentimes that truly is just kicking the can down the road, especially if it's not a, super effective therapist. They can just have you kind of sit and wallow in the past for a long time without actually moving forward. And so I don't know, maybe she's got a really great therapist. So it wasn't that she was saying that she was not willing to do anything. She was willing to fix it, but she wasn't going to be able to solve it unless she was willing to hear you out. And so the very fact that she called you when you asked her to do so and was willing to hear you out, I think that that is where she was at least willing to explore solving that problem. Is it solved for her yet? Most likely not, because things like that don't get solved overnight. It's not
Right.
as simple as flipping the arm of a microphone stand away from the path of other people. It usually involves a little more than just 10-second fix. So that being said, I think that it was very well executed by you. And I think that the way that you, as the coach, could have fixed her problem, thrown that Band-Aid on the bullet hole, as you would say, was to just say, I'm sorry to have heard that, and I'll let you go.
Yeah,
I
take the time
understand.
you need to do your inner work. I'll be here when you're ready.
That's right. That's right. I understand. I release you. Come back when you're ready. That might have fixed that problem. She would have, in the moment, felt like, oh, okay, at least that's what we think she would think.
Mhm.
She might actually, at a subconscious level, think, I'm not worth keeping.
Mhm.
I'm not worth him hanging on to as a client. I must be a hopeless case. He doesn't believe I can do this. Who knows what was going on in her head if you had said, never mind. But on the surface, I think that could have been you fixing it versus you attempting to solve it. And in this case, I do believe you did solve it. It might have taken more than 10 seconds. But I think that problem was solved. And that problem was her knowing and testing at what point she would disappoint you. So she was kind of figuring out what that boundary was and realizing that the relationship that she has with you is different than relationships with other people. And so even if she doesn't perform, and I'm using air quotes for those of you who are just listening, that doesn't mean that you'll be disappointed in her. And so I think that that issue was probably solved. And then she also has some more confidence in the process. And she
Mhm.
was unaware of what that process was. And now she has more information. She has more confidence in that. And so I believe that problem was likely solved. It doesn't mean that it won't come up again in different ways. But I think that that's how you solved that as a coach.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree, and I think that you said something along the lines of like maybe it's not completely solved yet, and I agree in that sentence or statement, whatever. I'm stumbling on words, but you get what I'm saying, right? I agree with you there. Um, but it's in process of being solved. We're solving
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yep.
kind of thing, and sometimes like you mentioned, it's not a 10-second fix. Sometimes it takes weeks or months to solve the problem, and that's okay, as long as we're not taking shortcuts or we're not taking the easy route, and we really do, take a stand for these people, or we take a stand for ourselves, or we do the hard work where we have to dig into things, when maybe like it's like, hey, as much as we would love to just get to the numbers and get to the game planning and stuff like that, maybe it doesn't make sense to do that right now, because that would be fixing something versus actually laying the bedrock and the foundation to solve it long term. And I think that's so important, because even like, I talk to people all the time where they're like, well, I just want this budget right now. And I'm like, I hear you. I get it. But if I give it to you right now and we don't do some of the inner work, or we don't see what has been happening so we can then decide how to move forward from it, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's what you want versus what you need. And that might be the difference between fixing and solving. It's what you want versus what you need. And I think that going after what you really need for the long-term success is always, always, always going to be the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The tougher way to go. But not always. Like in your instance that you started with at the top of the episode, it wasn't tougher. It might have taken 10 seconds versus
2 seconds.
5 or 2. Okay. So it took a
Yeah.
little bit longer, but it really wasn't tougher. You just had to work smarter. You had to put yourself in the mindset of, okay, this has happened twice now. What can I do differently in order to avoid this from happening again? So you actually have to be resourceful. You have to be willing to think outside the box. And that's what you did. And I think that's where people need to be able to do this as well. And I like what you said about want versus need. I don't always love that dichotomy, but I understand it in this context for sure, and totally agree with that. We talked about an example of what our clients do specifically. We talked about an example that could be kind of broken up into, was it the client doing the fixing solving, or was it the coach doing the fixing solving? And we were able to see how both of those would work. If I may, before we wrap up today, I'd like to also just throw out one common example I see with coaches in general that is just a coach thing, where it's the fixing versus the solving. And I'd love to hear your take on this as well. That's the idea of, like, when we start a business and like we see all of these super successful people and we're like, oh, I want my business to look like that, right? And it's kind of like your friend who's like, I want the 7-figure business. And we start going in, I was going to say doing all the things, but really I don't mean that. I mean like buying all the things to make that happen. We go and we invest in all of these courses, or we invest in coaching. And by the way, we know here that we really believe strongly in that. So please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. Sometimes coaches use courses and coaching and all of the little doodads as the Band-Aid for their business. They think that they're fixing their lack of clientele or their lack of, whatever audience with this little Band-Aid. And oftentimes it's really the problem that they need to solve is that they're not going out and just doing the thing. They're not confident in what they're doing. And so in order to fix that level of confidence, they don't need more credentials. They just need more practice, maybe. I just want to hear your thoughts on some of that.
Well, it's probably a confidence thing. I mean, there's a lot of ways to delay actually facing yourself. And
I like how you
sometimes
said that.
it's, what's that?
I really like how you just said that.
Yeah.
It's like a t-shirt. There's a lot of ways to delay actually confronting yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes it's under the guise of self-improvement,
Mm-hmm.
self-help. And it's like, you could buy 20 self-help books and read it, but it doesn't matter if you don't put it into practice.
Yep.
You don't give yourself a shot if you're not afraid of taking a leap and failing and then
Yeah.
learning and trying again. There's a lot of ways to do that. And I think that and like you said, we're big advocates of investing into yourself. I've
Mm-hmm.
taken many courses, you've taken many courses, we have courses available, like all these types of things. Like there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I think that what's important is understanding the threshold of, am I doing this to convince myself that I'm doing something, or am I actually going to do something with this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look at the underlying problem as being confidence in this case, or lack thereof, then is going out and hiring somebody that could help with your confidence, right? You could go out and hire a coach and do the programs and be vulnerable and listen to the feedback and grow, and that will grow your confidence. So in that case, that's actually a solution. But that same product, if you will, that could be a solution is oftentimes a band-aid for people. And so that's just the thing to remember, that, if you're just going to have more letters behind your name, like I can't tell you how many people, I don't know them as much anymore because I'm kind of out of that industry. But when I was in the industry of, doctors, etc., it's like they would just think that they could just put a bunch of letters behind their name and all of a sudden they were awesome at what they do. And I'm like, nope, you could probably knock a few letters off and still not be as great as some people who actually don't even have any letters behind their name, but they're in there doing it. And so that's just something to kind of keep in mind as well. So I feel like we've kind of covered all of the bases on this. And here it was just, you had an insight on your way home from worship one day.
Yep. Funny how the world works.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Absolutely. This has been fun. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you guys for listening to this episode. It was a little bit of a longer one, which I wasn't expecting, to be totally honest with you. But, we had some good conversations. So again, share the show, rate the show, join the Facebook group, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you guys next week for another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.